does the term illuminate mean to you? Let's take a moment for a short meditation. Close your eyes. Please try to close your eyes and feel the darkness around you. Then imagine that this darkness is gradually transitioning from shadow to a warm, bright light. Now, take a breath and slowly open your eyes. For me, this is the feeling of being illuminated, the feeling of empowerment. Being a queer feminist activist from an authoritarian country, I'm often asked how I overcame fear. The truth is that for a long time, I didn't understand fear. 14 years ago, I was a first-year undergraduate student in Beijing. One day, a male professor brought up a female scholar during our class. He admired everything about her, but was mad at her for one thing, her hair. He said that the woman's hair is too short, too mannish and confusing. I felt uncomfortable, so I stood up to challenge him. I argued that hair length is a matter of personal freedom. Since the professor taught ancient Chinese classics, I reminded him that in ancient China, a man with short hair like him would be abnormal, as gender norms around hair are socially constructed and always changing. My professor is embarrassed, but something good came out of this incident for me. A girl in my class told me that she admired my courage. Later, she became my first girlfriend. However, when I cut my hair very short, my girlfriend felt uneasy. She feared that my hairstyle would make our relationship too obvious. And her fear came true when the school authorities learned about our lesbian relationship. They outed me to my mom in a disparaging way. The Communist Party's Youth League Committee Secretary, who's responsible for students' affairs and political education, informed my mother about my improper homosexual behaviors at school. However, I was not afraid at all, even then, because I knew my mom loved me and she would be always on my side. And she was. Facing the school authorities' concerns about my homosexuality, she simply replied, "Oh, so my daughter is lesbian. That's great. I don't need to worry about her getting pregnant unexpectedly." Yeah, I also laughed at her remarks. Indeed, my mother was my sunlight. As a single mother, as a self-taught feminist, she always illuminated my carefree childhood and adolescence with love and freedom. Thanks to her, I never felt fear. However, I didn't realize the fear of others until my first girlfriend broke up with me and told me, "You should go back to straight." For her, the joke of how school outed me to my mother was actually very terrifying. She came from a much more conservative family in a small town, and her parents had very strict expectations for her. Being with me is such a risky journey down a dark path with no bright future. I wanted to illuminate this dark path, so I started to volunteer with local LGBTQ groups and gradually became a queer feminist activist. I thought I was braver than my ex-girlfriend, but soon I realized I was not the brave one. True bravery is battling against the darkness and fear, not standing in the sunlight fearlessly like I did. I heard a lot of darker stories in the queer community. Being a queer woman in China is not easy. Many people grow up in fear and restraint. But I was fearless even when facing gender discriminations as a girl or facing some bad experience for not being so much like a girl. When I was in 6th grade, some kids removed my pants to check my private parts, saying that they just want to confirm my gender. But I felt no shame or fear because my mom always told me that these are their problems, not mine. So I grew up fearlessly, not like many others, because most parents would just blame the victims for these such humiliating and invasive experiences. However, listening to the darkest stories actually illuminated me with bravery, those true bravery shining like stars. As Martin Luther King Jr. once said, "Only when it is dark enough can you see the stars." And indeed, listening to my friends' experience, how they struggling against fear and darkness, I saw the star shining in their courage. I understand that I'm not the bravest one, but I tried my best not to turn a blind eye to this dark experience and to join them for illuminating the darkness. My queer feminist activist friends, despite their traumas and fear, chose to be active in social movement and to illuminate the world. Yet the world is not always getting brighter. In 2015, 5 feminist activists in China was arrested right before the International Women's Day. This plunged all of us Chinese activists into deeper fear. But to my surprise, I lost the sunlight that made me fearless all these years. I lost my mother's support. She asked me to quit my job in a Chinese queer feminist organization. She wanted me to stop being an activist in China. She wanted me to leave China and go to the United States. I didn't understand at first. Yes, being an activist in China is dangerous, but I always been fearless. I felt so lucky and privileged that I can be open in public media as a queer feminist activist because my mom has supported my queerness and my activism all this time. However, during our year-long argument in 2015, she finally revealed her fear and dark story to me. She told me that in 1989, the year I was born, her best friend was arrested in a pro-democracy protest in China and died in jail, never seeing her toddler again. She told me with tears, "If you haven't been born during these protests, proving that I was in hospital, not on the street, I could have the same fate." I ultimately convinced by her dark story, so here I am in the United States. However, when I first arrived, I felt trapped in darkness. I was far from my loved ones, my mother, my second girlfriend, my friends and activist colleagues. Although I continued my study in the field I love, women's gender and sexuality studies, language barriers made academic life challenging as well. But worst of all is my survivor's guilt deepened, thinking of my activist friends in China. They faced deeper darkness not only from the government oppression, but also from cyberbullying by nationalist mobs. The hashtags such as MeToo and LGBTQ were banned on Chinese social media. More of my activist friends was threatened or arrested. The organization I worked or volunteered for were shut down one by one. In this darkest moment, I felt so guilty for leaving the country. Although, from a queer feminist perspective, it seemed that I didn't came to a brighter place. The year I arrived in the US, a president was elected known for saying something like, "Grab them by the pussy, you can do anything." From transgender rights to abortion rights, I saw darkness in this land of freedom that yet to be illuminated. After the Atlanta spa shootings, where 6 Asian women was killed and the murderer accused them for being sources of sexual temptation, I couldn't sleep well and had all bad nightmares. Would I be shot as an Asian woman in the US? Would I be imprisoned as an activist if I go back to China? How could I explain to my friends about my leaving the country? I don't know. I was trapped in these dark thoughts. I don't know what to do. But then I remembered the love and protection that illuminated me from my mom and the bravery and connection that my queer feminist friends offered me. And I remembered how their love and bravery came out from their fear. My mother's fear of losing or hurting me. My friends' fear of the darkness in the world. Motivate them to illuminate. So, although I'm not the brave one, I tried to do the same thing. I created a space for Chinese students who share the same concerns about minority rights and democracy in China. I joined other feminist friends in several women's marches in different US cities. I stood up for anti-Asian hate during the pandemic and after the Atlanta spa shootings. I spread news about how activists in China were fighting for freedom. All these things, I try to do them not because I'm brave, but because I realize that the love and fear I shared with my friends are not opposite, but intertwined. From this fear, I found battling with it, growing up with true bravery. Although we might not be able to make the world being a brighter place, our collective action illuminates ourselves, each other. We shared love and care in our monthly gatherings, in our protests, and in the campaigns. Today, I'm not living a fearless life anymore, but it's still a life filled with love. At this moment, I invite you to close your eyes once again. Close your eyes and feel the darkness. When you are in darkness, when you are in fear, try to connect this fear to the fear of your loved ones. Ask yourself, what could you do for them? What is one thing you can do to illuminate their darkness? Feel your body, clench your fist, and feel the power of action in your palms. Remember, you are not alone. Take a breath and slowly open your eyes to let the light enter. Thank you for joining me with this illuminated journey. Thank you.